Betrayal doesn't kick a door in, it learns the hinges and slides through. It's already in the room by the time you notice the smoke. Aunt Lorraine's dining room smells like overcooked beef in her perfume, powdery, chemical, a sting that sits behind the eyes. The ceiling fan clicks and the light sways a fraction, throwing yellow over the oak table polished to a mirror. The walls are crowded with proof of life. Cousins gripping diplomas, glittering wedding frames, children holding gaps in their smiles like trophies. I sit at the far end as if the chair is a cliff and my feet are over the edge, hands in my lap, back straight, invisible as wallpaper. Lorraine taps her wine glass with one manicured nail. Not loud, precise. The chatter thins and the forks pause midair. She leans back, smile stretched and cracked, lipstick bleeding into the lines like paint in old wood. "Money's gone from my purse," she says. She says the words down gently, a knife on linen. She doesn't look at Ruby. She doesn't look at Dylan. She looks at me. Air shifts, chairs creak, someone's bracelet gives a nervous jingle, the photographs on the walls shine like 100 little eyes. I feel my mother's exhale warm against my ear, though she's across the table, like a storm deciding where to land. "I didn't take anything," I say. My voice is steady, almost calm. I thought truth had its own weight, that if you dropped it into a conversation it would settle at the bottom, undeniable. My mother's hand finds my sleeve. Her nails bite through the cotton. She leans in, breath sour with wine and locked-up resentments. "Tell me the truth," she hisses, low enough for me alone. Something splits inside me. Not because she doesn't believe me, because I see how relieved she is to finally have a shape for her fear. If I'm the problem, then the problem is small enough to point at. Dylan sits 2 seats down. The fork hangs in his hand like he's waiting for a cue. He has that open, harmless face everyone trusts. Once in the 2nd grade, he cried because he thought he'd stepped on the ladybug. Now his jaw sets, his eyes flicker away from mine, his mouth thins to a line he thinks I can't read. Lorraine is patient the way cats are patient. She says, "No one's accusing," a lie without oxygen. "We're just sorting it out." Ruby clears her throat, the sound people make when they want to be seen participating in fairness. Uncle Ted leans back, checks his watch as if the time might confess. Around the table, heads tilt, empathy rehearsed in porcelain faces. I say it again because the room needs it. I didn't take anything. "Then who did?" Lorraine asks, eyebrows high. The words are casual, but she is already moving the spotlight. It lands on me, like heat. I look at my mother. She squeezes my arm harder. "If you took it, we'll deal with it. Just don't lie." And there it is, her version of love. I hear the scrape of chairs, the small clatter of a spoon abandoned, the big elastic silence growing like a bruise. "I didn't," I say. The word is thin as thread. It doesn't climb the walls, doesn't cling to the frames. It just lies there on the polished wood between us, ignored. Lorraine sighs the way judges sigh. "It's fine," she says, though she means the opposite. "We'll look." She makes a show of rummaging through her purse again, lips pursed in disappointment at the world. She's waiting for the performance to end with the confession she ordered. No one stands up to search. There's nothing to find. The verdict has already been signed in their heads. Dinner resumes the way rain resumes after thunder. Same rhythm, heavier. Forks obey, conversations we start on different tracks. Nobody looks directly at me, but their eyes brush over me like I'm something sharp on the floor. I stay until I can stand without my chair squealing. I carry my plate to the sink because good children clear their plates. Then I climb the creaking stairs to the bathroom. At the top, I stop. The hall is narrow, carpet fighting with itself, family photos closing in, glossy in the low light. Dylan's door is cracked. I can hear the hiss of his desk lamp and the small sound of paper. I knock once and go in. He's sitting on the edge of his bed, lamp drawing a circle around him and leaving the corners of the room for ghosts. Baseball cards fan across the carpet, a scattered, practiced innocence. Behind the shoebox on his shelf, a torn bank envelope is wedged like a white tongue.
We both look at it. Neither of us moves. "Don't," he says. Just that. The word catches on his lip like a splinter. I pick up the envelope because my hand moves before my judgment does. Inside, bills. Not a fortune. Enough to be stupid about. He tries again. Please, don't tell. Don't make it worse. He's shaking, just a tremor, like a boy who has never been told no without a cushion underneath it. His face is pale in the yellow light. He looks like a story people tell themselves. He's a good kid, he made a mistake, he'll learn. I could call him out. I could walk back downstairs and set the truth on the table like a glass of water no one requested. I could watch the faces recalibrate, my mother's mouth open and close around apology, Lorraine pretend she never pointed. I don't. Because somewhere, a rule calcified in me. You carry the weight for the ones you love. You take the hit that would ruin them. You make yourself the problem so they can keep being the solution other people want. Put it back, I say quietly. Tonight. He nods too quickly. I will, I promise. Promises are light. They float. I put the envelope back and wedge it deeper so he can pretend he hit it well. When I leave, I don't close his door. I don't take the lamp's circle with me. By morning, the story has scabbed over. No one brings up the money. Lorraine pours coffee like mercy. Her eyebrows relaxed now that they've done their work. My mother fusses over biscuits like the night belongs to a different family. Dylan can't meet my eyes, which is its own kind of confession. The kitchen clock is loud. It tells me the only truth anyone in this house can keep. Time moves. You either move with it or you calcify. I go to my room and unzip my backpack. It opens its mouth like it's been waiting. I count the money I've stashed. $86, crumpled and warm from the inside pocket. A shirt, a pair of socks, a notebook with a cracked spine, a pen that only works if you shake it awake. I write nothing down. I leave no note. I understand something I didn't last night. Some departures aren't announcements, they're corrections. I step around the places in the floor that know how to complain. I take the back stairs because the front stairs keep a ledger. I let myself out through the mudroom and breathe air that doesn't belong to Lorraine. The bus station smells like damp wool, burned coffee, and tired people. Lights buzz. A man with an unraveling scarf snores into his coat. A kid stares at a vending machine with the concentration of prayer. I slide my crumpled bills under the scratched glass. The woman at the window doesn't ask where I'm going, just where I'm getting off. Anywhere, I say. And then, because anywhere needs a name to be ticketed, I point to the board. Maple Ridge, 3:15 a.m. The ticket is thin, the kind of paper that disintegrates in rain. I hold it too carefully as if it's proof of something bigger than a seat. The bench is hard. My backpack sits against my shoelaces like a pet too skittish to climb onto my lap. When the bus sighs into the bay, I get on first because I don't know how not to. The driver looks at me and then away, a kindness I don't expect. I pick a seat in the middle, where people who don't want to be seen pretend to rest. The heater smells like old dust and pennies. The glass is cold under my forehead. I watch the station slide sideways, and then backwards, and then disappear. City lights smear to a rhythm. The road hums. Somewhere, Lorraine wipes down her perfect table and counts spoons. Somewhere, my mother opens a cabinet and reaches for a glass and can't remember why she walked into the kitchen. Somewhere, Dylan lies in his lamp circle and counts lies to fall asleep. The bus makes me a set of new sounds. Turn signal, tire rattle, the soft cough of someone trying to hide how much they hurt. Headlights wash over bare trees and empty billboards and closed diners pretending they'll open tomorrow. I keep my eyes open because sleep is a place people lose things. By 4 a.m, rain has lost interest in the clouds and given itself to the road. The bus settles like an animal bedding down. The driver calls out Maple Ridge without turning his head. I stand and my knees argue about it, and then I am outside in the wet dark.
air smelling like exhaust and wet pavement. The town is a leftover, storefronts with their eyes shut, a flicker of neon that forgot to die, sidewalks glistening like new scars. My breath makes a weak fog. I pull my backpack higher because it's the only thing I own that tries to hold me back. Across the street, a rectangle of warm light. Letters hand-painted on the glass, Dot Carter's bread and coffee. A bell tinkles when I push the door because something in the world still believes in bells. Heat hits me like a quilt thrown over shaking shoulders. Yeast and sugar and cinnamon sit heavy in the air. For a second, my chest aches so sharply I wonder if relief can bruise.
A man behind the counter looks up, tired eyes, flour dusting his forearms like he's been handling weather. He takes me in the way bakers take in dough, quick, practiced kind. "You lost or hungry?" he asks. "Yeah," I say. I don't specify which. A woman steps from the kitchen, wiping her hands on her apron. She slides a roll across the counter. Steam curls from the torn crust. Butter runs the edges like it struck oil. "Eat," she says, "then mop. We open in 2 hours." I nod because instruction is the first language I ever learned. I bite the roll and it tastes like reprieve. When I swallow, something in me loosens that's been clenching since Lorraine's nail rang the glass. I don't tell them anything. They don't ask. There are other ways to answer. I eat. Then I take the mop. The floor of Doc Carter's is old and honest. It confesses every footstep. I learn its language with a bucket and a handle, pushing soap into the grain until the gray turns back into wood. The mop water clouds with a day I'm not going to keep. When the bell on the door is sleeping and the ovens are talking to themselves, I meet the bakery's heartbeat. Trays clatter, pans thud, proofing baskets breathe. The room is warm, the way a hand is warm. The smell is a rope thrown to a drowning person. "Name's Ray," the man says, lifting 12 loaves as if his wrists remember each one from birth. "That's Mabel." He nods toward the woman shaping rolls with a speed that belongs to muscle memory and mercy. "Coffee?" Mabel asks. "Yes," I say, because it's the quickest way to say thank you without sounding sorry. She pours without measuring, the way people pour for those they have already decided to keep. The mug is chipped and clean. The heat crawls into my fingers and makes camp. Ray sets a lump of dough on the bench in front of me. "You need?" I shake my head. He folds my hands around the soft weight and moves them like we're a 3-armed creature. "Not a fight," he murmurs. "Don't bully it. Work like you're trying to convince it to be bread." I try. The dough sticks to the webbing between my fingers and laughs at me. Ray grins, wipes flour across my knuckles. "It'll teach you, if you let it." By dawn, the glass fogs, and the world outside remembers it has a mouth. Boots scuff, umbrellas drip. The bell works like a doorbell on a church. People come in hollow and leave carrying something heavier than hunger. We learn names by orders, grief by the way a person stares past the pastry case, joy by the noise they make when their kid chooses sprinkles. Mabel knows how to slide a napkin into a shaking hand without calling it a handkerchief. I sleep upstairs, a room with a radiator that rattles like it's keeping a secret, and a window that sticks when it freezes and forgives you by noon. Rent is a number Mabel writes on an envelope and tucks under my plate. So it's not a conversation, just a courtesy. At night, when the street goes back to being a river of quiet, I write small letters home at the little table by the window. "I'm fine. Don't worry." I don't sign them. Sometimes I fold 3 tens inside and address the envelope to my mother's house in a hand that doesn't look like mine. I don't write Dylan's name. He'll know. When the ink dries, the guilt lifts a little and then lands somewhere else. Days stack. I learn to refill jam jars without leaving fingerprints. I learn the oven's moods. I learn that decent people tip extra when your eyes look like you've been losing to the night. A regular named Mrs. Klein tells me about her husband's war like she's asking for a second sugar. A high school kid studies for calculus at the corner table because the coffee is cheaper than heat. A construction crew comes before sunup, smelling like cold iron and talking about weather like it owes them money. Ray keeps a battered tin on the shelf. When the line shrinks and no one is looking, he slides a bun into the tin and then into a lunch pail without comment. This is how he prays. Everyone comes here for a reason, Mabel says one slow Tuesday, polishing the register screen until our faces smear into one. Hers steady, mine surprised. What's my reason? I ask. You're here. Sometimes that's enough reason to keep you.
I start with the phone number at the bottom of the letter because some fights begin as a courtesy. The line clicks, a menu sings lies about how my call matters, and then a woman with a voice like fresh plastic says, "Mercer Properties, how may I direct your call?" "Rent increase," I say. 18% for Dot Carter's bread and coffee. A keyboard chatters like rain on tin. "Tenant ID?" "Dot Carter's," I repeat, because we don't keep an ID for who we are. "Please hold." Music slips into the receiver, all brushed cymbals and anesthesia. When the voice returns, it belongs to a man who uses words like leverage as compliments. "This is Colin. You're calling about a market realignment." "That's not what your letter calls it." He hums, the sound people make when they're not listening but want to be polite about it. "Rents citywide have adjusted. Our analysis indicates..." "Ever eaten here?" I ask. "Knows what a cinnamon knot does to a person who hasn't slept?" Silence, then a smile I can hear. "I'm afraid sentimental value isn't a factor in our calculations." "Repairs aren't either?" I ask, reading from the list I made last night. "Roof leak over the back pantry, the dead exit sign, the door that doesn't latch since September." "Those items would be reviewed upon a formal request," he says. "Unrelated to rent." "Seems related when your roof rains on the flour," I say. He switches to what he calls solutions, payment plans, grace periods, the suggestion of pivoting your concept to higher margin items. I picture Lorraine tilting her head, the same tone dressed in a different suit. "Board of Zoning meets on the 23rd, I say. We'll see you there." He laughs once, kindly, like I've told him a child's plan. "That board doesn't manage rent disputes." "Maybe they manage patterns," I say, like a landlord taking bites out of every block until a neighborhood can't chew. He's done being pleasant now. As a reminder, any public misrepresentation of Mercer's actions may result in legal recourse. I hang up before my anger curdles into something I can't swallow. The bakery absorbs it anyway. Heat licks my face when I open the oven. Flour lifts and drifts and falls like a slow snow, coating everything that stays long enough. I work faster. The work takes me the way a current takes a strong swimmer. I am carried by measuring cups and sticky dough and the steady, soft swearing of a proofing basket that split along an old scar. At lunch rush, I slide a tip jar near the register with a piece of masking tape and a sentence written in Mabel's looping hand. "If this place has kept you warm, help us keep the ovens on." No exclamation points, no pleading, just the truth standing there, available. People notice. Coins clink. Bills fold. A paramedic on graveyards pushes a 20 in with 2 fingers like he's threading a needle. Mrs. Klein empties her change purse and then returns with a jar of quarters that has been her laundry budget since her husband died. A teenager in a hoodie taps his phone and shows me a notification because he's proud he figured out how to send money to an email address. By late afternoon, the jar glows like a lantern. I lift it. It's heavier than it looks. That's what this place does, disguises weight as warmth. After close, I go to the library. The guard holds the door with the air of a man who's been told rules and decided which ones deserve obedience. He nods at my flour-dusted sleeves. Back table's quiet. I live under the fluorescent hum until the stacks learn my name. Municipal Code, Title 12, Small Business Resource Packet, minutes of the Board of Zoning Appeals. The words have corners I cut my eyes on.
Ordnance numbers march like soldiers. I trace them with my finger until they separate and hold still. There are phrases that matter: undue hardship, constructive eviction, material non-compliance. There are forms with boxes that want to be checked in black ink, not blue. There are deadlines I copy onto a calendar I fold into my pocket because time is a hard boundary, and I respect fences that are honest about their edges. I print out the sections I don't understand and write my own translations in the margins. If they don't fix the roof, they can't pretend the weather is our fault. I text the hearing date to Mabel and Ray from a phone that still surprises me by waking when I ask. When I come back, Mabel has already baked worry into lemon bars. She listens as I lay the printouts down like a card trick. Ray reads. He doesn't pretend to understand every line, but he reads as if words deserve attention before they're obeyed. We're not lawyers, Mabel says, quiet. No, I say. We're bread people, and I know a thing about dough. If it's dry and you try to stretch it too fast, it tears. Ray taps a posted ordinance with one flower blunt fingertip. Says here the landlord is required to maintain exit signage. Mabel squints. What's exit? The glowing door sign that died in September, I say. They've ignored 3 emails. I point to the printed copies because proof is a language bureaucracies speak. Compliance is their job. Rent increase is not a replacement for repair. We build a wall of paper, not to hide behind, to lean on. Mabel finds a photograph of the ceiling stain where Rain tried to learn the recipe. Ray prints a ledger showing what we paid without missing. I draw a map of the room and mark the door that sticks. It feels like homework due from a life I didn't plan to attend. Word travels along the counter like it always does. We don't put up a sign, we don't write a screed, but people ask, and we answer. 18%, no repairs. The story doesn't need color. It arrives with its own bruises.
One morning, a woman with a press badge and a scarf like a flag orders coffee and a cinnamon roll and asks if we have a minute. We give her 2 hours at the back table while the ovens breathe and the bell does its small miracle. She asks questions that land like hands on a shoulder and not like claws. How long have you been here? What happens to this block if you close? What's the landlord's history? I tell her the truth I can afford. Ray tells her the roof timeline with the precision of a man who knows delivery schedules better than birthdays. Mabel gives her a lemon bar for the road because truth goes down better when someone's sugared the edge. The story runs 2 days later. It lives on a website that loads slowly on our register tablet, then in print, ink that rubs off on your thumbs. The headline is simple enough to hold all the feelings. Beloved bakery faces big rent hike as repairs go unfixed. Underneath, a photo of the front window. You can see me inside, blurry as a rumor, hands twice my size because glass does that. The comments read like a town deciding what it wants to be when it grows up. People prepay for bread. They buy gift cards like shovels. They show up to mop on their lunch breaks and pretend they like it. Colin from Mercer calls. His voice is thinner now, like he's been asked to sing at the wrong tempo. We're aware of a misleading article circulating, he says. Bring a ladder and fix the sign, I say. Bring a roofer. Bring empathy. That's not the tone that will get you concessions, he says. I'm not asking for concessions. I'm asking you to do your job. He hangs up before his kindness has to break. The night before the hearing, I stand in the bathroom mirror and practice talking without apologizing for the sound. The shirt Mabel lends me is 2 sizes too big. Its collar tries to swallow me. Ray irons the sleeves like he's smoothing out a map. I tape the roof stain photo to the front of a manila folder because sometimes you have to show people the sky falls inside. Eat, Mabel says, pushing a plate across the table loaded with eggs and toast in a pattern that means she's scared. Then speak. The Board of Zoning Appeals meets in a room designed to make people smaller. Fluorescent lights, chairs that squeak as if you've asked them for money. A row of officials who have perfected the expression that says, we are listening and we are thinking about other things at the same time. On the wall, a clock that ticks with a violence the room pretends not to hear. We are item 4. Discussion of tenant complaint re-maintenance 1447 Holloway, Mercer Properties. The clerk says the address with the same tone she used for an alley variance and a tree removal. To her credit, she looks at me when she adds, Dot Carter's Bread and Coffee. The room makes a small approving noise, the sounded town saves for places that taught its kids to like mornings. Mercer sends a man with a perfect suit and a binder that could double as a weapon. He introduces himself as counsel. He smiles at us without showing teeth. He lays out percentages, market rates, precedent. He uses market volatility like a weather report. When the board asks about the roof, he says, "We have received no formal request in the appropriate format." I hold up the printed emails. He doesn't look. Mabel's hand finds mine under the table and squeezes until my bones confer. Ray stares at the exit sign above the back door and then at the photo of the broken one in my folder like he's trying to will electricity into paper. They call me. I stand. The shirt keeps trying to eat me, but my spine decides it's tired of bending. I carry the folder like it holds a heart that needs delivery. My name is, I start, and my name sounds like something I made myself. I set the photo on the table. I place the emails beside it, in order, like a recipe. I speak into a microphone that pretends to be a tunnel. We are not asking for special treatment. We're asking you to enforce the rules on the books. The roof leaks, the exit sign is dead, the door sticks in winter, and somehow the rent is the only thing keeping pace with time. I don't see Lorraine. I don't see Dylan. I don't see the kind of nights that send a person into a bus station looking for an end to their last name. I say, fix the things that keep people safe. Tell them they can't raise the rent until they do. A woman on the board leans forward. Her glasses hang from a chain like a tiny noose. Do you have documentation of the leak?
I slide the photo. She studies the stain like it might answer. Another board member, a man with hands like a mechanic's, points at the dead sign. Fire code, he says, to no one and everyone. Council smiles the way people smile when they're about to be patient for money. We are, of course, committed to compliance. We simply require tenants to follow established communication channels. Like email? I ask and hold up the printouts again. He doesn't flinch. Like our portal. We have a portal? Ray whispers. Apparently, I whisper back. The board confers quietly, heads together, the sound of paper moving like waves learning English. The clerk types. I watch her fingers. They do not pause for drama. They add commas where commas belong. The clock on the wall keeps time like a metronome set to expectation. Finally, the chair clears his throat. Mercer Properties is hereby directed to correct the cited safety deficiencies, exit signage, and door egress within 14 days. He looks at counsel. Proof of repair to be filed with the clerk. Consideration of any rent adjustment will be tabled until compliance is confirmed. It's not a victory song. It's not fireworks. It's a sentence that holds. The room exhales. Someone in the back claps once and then stops because they remember where they are. Mabel's fingers loosen. Ray's jaw unclenches. The clerk keeps typing. The sound is the most beautiful thing I've heard in a long time. Click, 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 as if the universe is taking notes. Counsel nods the way men nod when they've been told no by a process they can't fire. We will comply, he says, and already he's emailing someone to make sure compliance costs less than losing face. Outside, the air is cold enough to make my teeth notice. We stand on the steps like people who've just learned their house will be standing in the morning. Ray laughs once, surprised by his own mouth. Mabel wipes at her eyes and then blames the wind. Eat, she says, because she doesn't have another word for what she needs us to do next. Then we'll put up a new sign that works. Back at the bakery, the bell over the door rings for us. The tip jar waits, gold and stubborn. I take out the letter from Mercer and unfold it. The old words are still there, smug as ever. I lay the clerk's stamped notice on top until the two papers know who is heavier. When we lock up, I stay an extra minute in the dark, letting the hum of the freezers settle into my bones. Flour hangs in the air like a ghost willing to haunt for good. Tomorrow we'll bake. Tomorrow they'll fix the sign. Tomorrow Colin will call and try a different tone.
Tonight I stand in a room that refused to let me run and realize the oldest truth I own. Fire without flower is just destruction. With the right hands, it feeds a city. Mercer fixes the exit sign first, as if light can erase memory. Two men in orange vests climb aluminum ladders and argue softly about amperage. The dead rectangle over the back door blinks, breathes, then glows a steady green that looks like permission. The door still sticks, then yields. A roofer follows, boots printing tar onto the alley like exclamation points. For 2 days, the ceiling thuds where clouds used to get in. When the rain finally comes, it stays outside like a good secret. We tape the clerk's stamped notice beside the espresso machine. No speech, no gloating, just paper recognizing paper. Customers pause, read, nod. People clap with their eyes. Someone leaves a bouquet in a mason jar with a note. For the ones who feed us when the city forgets the recipe.
Colin calls with a voice that has learned manners. "We appreciate your cooperation," he says, as if I wasn't the one who shoved the door open. "We appreciate your compliance," I answer, and hear Ray cough to hide a grin. Rent is tabled, as if money could be set in a corner and told to reconsider its behavior. We don't relax. We move like a kitchen in a storm. Measured, precise. Mabel adds 2 cinnamon knots to every box that looks like it holds a worry. Reciprocity is her religion. The week after the repairs, a new rhythm sneaks in. Morning light finds the dust motes early and stays longer. The bell sounds less frantic and more like punctuation. I keep the calendar sharp and the phones charged and the oil in the mixer at the line. Nights I still read ordinances, but I also learn margins, supplier terms, payroll calendars, tax quarters, the adult words that turn good places into lasting places. Ray starts writing things down he's carried in his head for decades. "We proof the sourdough at 68, not 70, he says, and I write it like gospel. "Jack from Perry Produce will short you limes if you let him talk. Laugh, then count." I add that too. He shows me the emergency shutoff valve, the breaker that controls the back ovens, the way the ancient Hobart sulks when it's overdue for grease. He thinks he's just unloading information to spare his memory. I'm building a map to survive change. One slow afternoon, Mabel stands at the window holding a dish towel like a handkerchief. The light makes lace from the flower on her sleeve. She is not old, but she is older than she was when this started. Lines have arrived at the corners of her mouth like parentheses around a joke she's still deciding whether to keep. "You ever think about not waking up at 3? I ask. She smiles into the glass. "Only on days that end in Y." Ray comes from the back carrying a tray of rolls like a man who knows weight and where to put it. He sets them down, then sets down the truth. "We've been talking. Since before the letter. Since before you even, if we're honest. The body tells you when a job and a life have to shake hands." My chest goes tight in that old way, fear starting to put on its coat. "You're closing?" Mabel turns, amusement soft as a brushed crumb. "No, honey, we're staying, but we can't stay like we were." The bell rings and breaks the moment open for the day to pass through. An electrician buys a coffee and leaves a card with a discount for people who make scones like this. A kid counts coins like a magician and earns her donut hole. We return to the small miracles, and then the larger one returns to us. That evening, when the signs glow as the only green on the block, they sit me down at the scarred back table. 2 mugs of tea steam between us, the air a little sweet from the last batch of lemon bars cooling on the rack. Mabel clears her throat the way people do when they're about to give away something they bled for and want to get the words exactly right. "We want to step back," she says. "Not all at once, not into the dark, but back. To mornings in our own kitchen, to taking a walk without timing it between oven alarms. We want to hear each other in the afternoon without the hum in our ears." Ray slides a worn keyring across the table. It clinks, metal singing a tiny chord. The keys are old, edges polished by hundreds of turns, each tooth a history lesson in brass. We want you to take the shop, he says. There are sentences that arrive like a shout, and those that arrive like a home. This is both. My first breath forgets itself. My hands hover, stupid with wanting. 17 lit the fuse, and everything since kept that fuse burning. The rent fight, the ledgers, the night spent swallowing paragraphs about escrow and egress, none of that prepared me for the weight of a ring pretending to be light. I start, because that's the reflex, to inventory lack. You have exactly what this place needs, Mabel says. A spine. Shame turned into muscle. A way of making people feel fed before they taste a thing. We've talked to Lila at the credit union, Ray adds, as if he can feel my heart calculating and coming up short. Community loan, low interest. We'll carry paper on the rest, because this is still our house, and we want it to hear it laughing. I look down at my hands. The flour lodged in my finger lines makes my palms look like maps to places where it still snows. I pick up the keys. Cold, heavy. They bite my skin just enough to say we're real. The ring is a small circle that opens hundreds of doors. Front, back, oven, office, a future. What about the name? I ask, because names hold ghosts as well as doors. Mabel glances at the window and the hand-painted letters that have survived more winters than I have birthdays. Doc Carter's stays Doc Carter's, she says. We don't pull up roots because we bought a new watering can. Ray laughs, startled by joy. You can add a line under it if you want, under new stubborn management. I close my fists around the keys. They're heavier than the letter from Mercer, heavier than my mother's hand on my sleeve, heavier than the envelope behind Dylan's baseball cards, heavier and kinder. We celebrate the way we always do, by making more food than the quiet can hold. Ray mixes a batch like music. Mabel rolls dough into ropes of cinnamon and sugar that coil into shapes people think the morning for. I mop because I don't know how else to say I'm listening. The exit sign hums like a tiny altar in the corner of my eye. After close, we pull the stools out and spread the paperwork like a map. There are forms that promise money and forms that promise to behave with money. Lila at the credit union meets us at the table with a pen that clicks like a metronome. She reads clauses out loud and then again in English. Collateral, balloon, amortization. I copy numbers into boxes with a hand that doesn't shake until it sees the sum at the bottom. You're buying time as much as a business, Lila says. Don't spend both in one place. We sign. Ray's signature looks like a landscape. Mabel's looks like flower fell into cursive. Mine is small and determined, the kind of name you write 100 times until it learns how to stand up straight. There are still mornings when the dough argues, and afternoons when the register sighs, and nights when I stand on the back step and smoke from a building over reminds me too much of a dining room. But something in me has settled in the rafters. I belong here, loud. The first day I open alone, the sky is indigo and daring me. I unlock the front grate with a hand that knows the key by feel, the way you know a friend's laugh in a crowded room. The bell greets me in our secret language. I hit the lights and watch the shop wake, cases glowing, ovens coming up slow, the air rousing into warmth. I lay my palm on the counter and feel, beneath the wood, the heartbeat of every morning we survived to make. People arrive with their ordinary hungers. I pour, slice, smile, apologize, refill, ring, laugh, listen. Mrs. Klein brings a photo of her husband in a uniform and leaves it under the tip jar. The electricians come back to admire their own sign. A little girl says she wants to work here when she's a grown-up 9. I hand her a hairnet the size of a parachute and a task that won't cut her. She announces to the room that she is now the manager of Sprinkles, and the room takes it as law. In the afternoon, when the lull dips and the hum takes over, I go to the office and stare at the lease. My name sits on a line that used to be empty for me. Tenant. It's so official it looks like someone else's life. I think of my mother's house, the rooms I learned to tiptoe in, the way conversation could turn to ice because the wrong name sat in the wrong sentence. I think of Lorraine's knife on linen. I think of Dylan's door cracked open, lamplight making halos out of paper sins. I think of a bus station at an hour when even the city is embarrassed. I press my thumb into the lease and leave a flour smear where the ink has dried, proof that the law and the kitchen have shaken hands. Night settles like cooling sugar. After close, I sweep slow, then slow again, not because the floor needs it, but because the floor has earned it. The freezers hum. The sign hums back. Upstairs, the radiator knocks once, and then, for the first time since I came here, goes quiet. I open the window even though the air is knife cold and let the city in. There's a letter on my pillow I wrote to myself weeks ago and never mailed. I won't run. I tuck it into the drawer with the spare keys. There's a space in that drawer ready for another thing I don't know yet, a future artifact waiting for its purpose. Before bed, I walk the shop one more time like a parent listening for a child's breathing. I touch the mixer, the oven door, the register, the calendar with its stubborn red circles, the photograph of Dot on opening day in a dress that looks like a holiday. At the back door, I look up at the sign. Green. Constant. I turn the final key and feel the whole building settle around me like a coat, cut to my measure. Eat. Then rest. Then wake up and do it again.
The first heat of June comes in like a rumor, sticky, uncommitted. The ovens make their own weather. By noon, the front door is a revolving fan blade. In, out, the bell stitching the day together. I'm wiping down a table with a rag that knows every corner when the bell rings a quieter sound. Just the brush of the door against its hinge, the pause of a person deciding. I look up, and there he is. Dylan stands just inside the threshold like he's borrowed the light from another room and doesn't trust it to stay. The years have graded him, jaw sharper, shoulders squared by a gym or a job that pays in strain, hair trimmed city neat. But the eyes are the same. The same color, the same unsure brightness, the same question mark where other people keep exclamation points. He doesn't move toward the counter. He looks at the display case, the hand-painted menu board, the photograph of Dot by the register. His gaze skims the ceiling, finds the exit sign, flickers to the back, to the hallway that leads upstairs, to the door I lock every night. To me. You heard right, I say softly. It's mine now. His throat works, he nods, like his neck needs to learn the motion again. His voice cracks and he scrapes it smooth. I heard this place was yours. I wait. The rag drips quietly into the bucket. The mixer in the back gives a small, patient cough. The room is ready to keep our secrets if we ask it to. I'm sorry, he says. The two words land between us like a coin that took too long to find a pocket. It glints, honest and late. For years I practiced the scene in bus windows and bathroom mirrors, the confession, the cross-examination, the verdict that clears my name in every language the family speaks. In all my rehearsals, justice wore a different face. But the bell rings again, and someone's kid starts crying because the sprinkle color is wrong, and the world refuses to stop so I can savor the script. I walk to the counter. The case is half full. Rye loaves cooling, cinnamon knots nested, a single lemon bar left like it stayed behind to see how this goes. I take a roll from the freshest tray, split it, fit butter into its heat. Steam climbs out and curls, the way forgiveness does if you don't force it. I slide the roll across the counter. Eat,
I say. Then mop. His laugh breaks like a thing thawing too fast. He covers his mouth with the back of his hand, then drops it and lets the sound finish itself. He's crying before he knows it. He looks like a boy who's been waiting outside a house he could have entered if he'd only knocked. He takes the roll with both hands, like I handed him something alive. He bites. The butter runs down his wrist and he doesn't wipe it, as if the magic lies in the mess. He chews slow, eyes shut. When he opens them, the room has accepted him a fraction more. Okay, he says, voice thick. Okay. Where's the mop? I point to the back. He disappears behind the counter with the same awkward politeness he used to have moving through our mother's kitchen. Don't touch the good bowls, avoid the drawer that sticks, step over the tile that wobbles. He returns with the bucket and the handle, like a penance he's chosen. He doesn't ask how I like it done. He starts at the door and works inward, pushing water into grain, listening to the floor tell him where it hurts. Customers watch. Some recognize him because faces are shared property in towns like this. Isn't that your brother? I don't introduce him. He introduces himself with work. When the rush dips and the mop finds its corner, I bring him a glass of water and a towel. He wipes his face and the handle in the same motion, the way you learn to take care of tools when you want them to keep forgiving you. Can we... he starts. Office, I say. 10 minutes. I glance at the clock. 2 orders slide up. 2 coffees, black, 1 croissant, no butter, a ham on wheat with the bread under-toasted because his dentist told him so. I make them. He stands in the corner and watches me work like he's learning a language better by listening than speaking. In the office, the old fan rattles on the filing cabinet and the lease on the wall shines under glass. Dylan sits on the folding chair that never learned how to be comfortable. I take the swivel that squeaks and carries me half an inch lower than anyone else who sits in it. The door is open. I keep the door open. I didn't put it back that night, he says, fast, aiming for the shooting pain instead of the bruise. I told myself I would. I told myself I'd pay it back. I told myself a lot of things that sounded smart to a coward. I say nothing. Some stories die if you interrupt them. Some grow sharper. I let them look at you, he says. I watched them do it. I didn't stop them. I thought... He swallows hard. I thought if you took the hit, it would bounce off. Because it always did. Because you always took it like you had somewhere to put it, and I had nowhere to put anything. He looks at his hands, turns them over like he's checking for a password stamped on his palm. I've been clean 21 months, he says, the words quieter and cleaner than the number. Not just the stealing, the stuff that stole me. I've said sorry to a lot of people. I've paid back who I could. But there was this door. He looks up toward the exit sign as if it's listening. I couldn't come through it. I didn't know if you'd lock it. I didn't know if you should. I can feel the old house in my jaw. The way walls hold temperature too long. The way air can go sharp without warning. I remember the bank envelope behind his baseball cards. The way his voice made "don't" sound holy. I remember the bus station at an hour when Mercy forgets to blink. Lorraine? I ask, because some names are weather systems, and you check the sky before you step outside. He snorts. She still hosts dinners where forgiveness is a game she invented and keeps the only rule book. She talks about you like a cautionary tale to the cousins. Don't make me call it stealing, I'll have to throw you out. And Mom, Mom says we don't bring the past into the present, which means never, unless it's flattering. He meets my eyes. I'm not here for them. Good. He reaches into his pocket and places a folded bank envelope on the desk between us. Time tilts. The fan keeps rattling as if air is just another chore. It's not the same money. He says, I know that. It's just the shape of what I took. From you. From how people saw you. From what you could have kept if I'd said one sentence. He doesn't push it at me. He lets it sit there like a patient. I don't touch it. Not because I won't, but because sometimes the lesson of a lesson is restraint. What do you want? I ask. It's the question Lorraine never asked when she said the table like a stage. It's the only question that can pull a person back from the poster they got glued to. He breathes, a long inhale that sounds like a person standing inside their own chest. To stand somewhere I didn't ruin. To be useful. To... He smiles, sudden and small. To mop. To learn how you make that braid thing people fight over. To carry sacks and not take anything that isn't mine. I look at him the way Ray looks at dough before deciding whether to give it more time or more flour.
I lock up. He watches how I turn the key. He copies the motion in the air with his hand like he's practicing a signature he'll need later. Upstairs, I open the drawer where the spare keys live, the one with the letter that says I won't run. I take out a brass copy that Ray cut weeks ago when planning a future he didn't tell me about. Back downstairs, I hold it out. Dylan stares like I've handed him a baby or a bomb. This isn't a promise, I say. It's a test. He takes the key. It bites his palm the way it bit mine. I won't, he starts. Don't finish that sentence, I cut in. Just show up tomorrow. He nods. He tucks the key into his pocket, the way people put sacred things where they can feel them move. We walk to the corner together, then split, each carried by a different streetlight. At the curb, he turns and lifts a hand. It's the same gesture he used to make when we were kids playing across fields, the one that meant race you home. He doesn't say it now. He doesn't have to. We both know the route. That night, after the last dish has dried and the freezers have settled into their steady hum, I sit on the back step with a roll I forgot to sell. The city breathes in and out. Above me, the sign throws its small, stubborn green on the alley wall. I think of Aunt Lorraine's dining room, the yellow light, the polished table, the knife on linen. I think of my mother's hand on my sleeve, nails through cotton, the little relief in her eyes. I think of a torn bank envelope, a boy in lamplight saying don't, like a prayer. I think of the bus station, the ticket that was paper thin and everything. I think of Mabel's voice, Ray's hands, the first roll that asked nothing of me but a bite and a mop. I eat. Then I go inside, fill the bucket, and mop the small square by the door where the day likes to collect. It shines. It looks like a promise kept. When the bell rings tomorrow, I'll say good morning to whoever walks through. Strangers, regulars, ghosts who finally learned the route. If one of them is a boy in a suit, borrowed from a better day, I know what to do. I'll split a roll, fit butter to heat, and slide it across. Eat, I'll say, then mop. And the door will stay open.